It's really about just taking a second instead of feeling like you have to rush through to make an offer, that it's really about understanding your consumers so that it's almost like it helps you weed out those that you do want to make an offer to versus those who you're like, you know what, I'm not the right person. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Power in the Pause podcast. How are you doing today? Please remember to hit subscribe so that you do not miss a single episode that comes out every single week. And if you happen to be a raving fan of this podcast, it would be awesome if you would also leave a rating, a 5-star rating, and a review so that more people can find this podcast. So, without further ado, I want to welcome you guys to today's episode where I am here with Catharine O'Leary. Hello, Catharine. How are you?
I am fantastic, Wendy. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy that you have joined me today. And I am so looking forward to our conversation today about how it is that each and every one of you guys listening can ditch the lead generation and switch to client attraction. So my language, Catharine. So you guys, let me share a little bit more about Catharine and why she is the expert in this conversation. So Catharine O'Leary, also known as the Quiz Queen, is an expert in client connection. With over 3 decades in market research and consumer insights, she specializes in attracting ideal clients and boosting revenue. Her approach uses insightful questions to foster strong client relationships and to grow businesses. Join her mission. All of you, please join her mission to harness the power of curiosity to connect with your ideal clients. I love that last line, Catharine, because what I have come to learn over the last couple of years is how crucial that curiosity piece is as a business owner and in how it is that we go about attracting our ideal clients. And I would love for you to share a little bit more with our audience today about why is that important in client attraction? How does that tie into people's ability to make the pivot out of, the buzzword of like, let's find leads to attracting clients?
Yeah, that's a great questions, Wendy. I think the first thing to understand is lead generation, like especially, the way that the industry really runs lead generation is purely a volume game. And it is just get as many emails into your list as humanly possible and then start pitching and just start going. And then hopefully spaghetti on the wall, right? Hopefully something will stick. And that's, that's one way to do it, I guess. But the problem with that is when, that's one thing for a magazine subscription or something like Hilton Hotels or something like that to do. It's another thing for coaches and consultants who do a little bit more customized, a little bit more one-on-one, even if you're doing group coaching or you have, transformational programs, that requires a little bit more know, like, and trust. And it requires a little bit more of a conversation, I feel, between the ideal client and the business. So, if I, as the ideal client, am looking for something, I've got a problem that I'm trying to solve, right? And it's like enough of a problem that I'm actually looking for help to solve that. I think we've taken that a little bit for granted as business owners and just assumed that everyone is looking for our solution and we must be the one solution for this particular problem. And we don't take enough time to say, hey, okay, wait a minute, hold on here. Hi, how are you? What's your name? Like, what, where'd you grow up? What's going on? Like, what's going on with your business? Tell me a little bit more about what's going on with you and the problem that you're having. And let's see if I'm even a solution as a business owner for you. Before we go any further, before we talk about, offers or prices or, how we can, work together. Let's see if we actually gel first. Let's see if we actually, are in match for one another. Because I would rather be in a room of like 25 people that are my ideal clients, that are ready to go, that, have really good questions, are engaged with the conversations that we're having, are all on the same wavelength, than be in a stadium of 10,000 people and trying to find those 25 people. Because that's what lead generation is, right? I can generate leads all day long, right? Globally. It doesn't mean that they're good clients. And the time it takes to figure out how to go from 10,000 down to that 25 or whatever those numbers are for you, that's exhausting. And that's where we can lose a lot of money on paid advertising that doesn't go anywhere, or spending a lot of time and money on speaking, or, we're not making that connection. We're setting ourselves up for a really hard battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. And tell me if you agree with this too. I mean, I feel like so many times as, those of us who are entrepreneurs and we really are diving in and trying to figure out, like, to me, the way I'm going to say it in more layman's terms is like qualified leads, right? Not just any lead, but actual buyers, right? Qualified people who are in the mindset of purchasing from you. And I think one of the crucial pieces that we don't pay enough attention to is like, what is keeping them up at night? Because it is probably not what you think it is. And part of why it's not what you think it is because you are not taking the time to get to know them. So how does really understanding, and I know you call it the 3 a.m. question, right? So how can understanding that 3 a.m. question really deepen your connection with your audience to be able to attract them as a potential client and buyer?
Yeah, the 3 a.m. question has a couple of kind of facets to it. The first one is that you want to make sure you're understanding your ideal clients. 3 a.m. question, not the broader group, right. Not everyone. Like, if you can't narrow down, the one question that your clients are waking up with, you've probably got too broad of a definition of your client base, right? Because like your ideal client should be waking up with, what is it like how do I get to 7 figures, or how do I, afford that vacation home, or how do I, get over this gap that I have in my relationship, or, how do I feel like successful when I've checked all the boxes and like it's not happening. So really understanding what your ideal client is the problem that they have. The other thing that entrepreneurs tend to do is that we tend to create solutions for problems that we've had, right? So our businesses are 9 times out of 10, they're solutions for things that we've solved for ourselves. The thing is that when you're in the solution phase, you use different language for what the problem is. And you don't remember, or you can't put yourself back to when you were waking up at 3 a.m. and worried about this, this problem. I use the example that, for me, I help clients build quiz funnels. There's probably 2 people on the planet that wake up and like actually think to themselves at 3 a.m. I wonder how I can do a quiz. I wonder how I can make a quiz funnel. I wonder how I can optimize a quiz. That's not what people say, right? It's the how that I can help them with. It's the tool to get more clients, to get more quality, prospects, to, start those conversations and build deeper relationships before people even come into the community. Those are the kinds of questions that, at 3 a.m. people are waking up for. So, there's a little bit of a language thing going on. We've forgotten really what that, and don't forget, folks, that clarity beats clever every day. So let's not get too markety with the 3 a.m. question and make sure that we are driving home like we understand what it is. So really understanding, like, if we can stop people in their tracks with the solution to the 3 a.m. question that they are already looking for a solution for, it's going to draw them in, right? And that's what's going to draw them into, okay, tell me more. right? Okay, help me with this. Help me with this problem because actually, yeah, like I'm trying to figure out how to get 7 figures, or I'm trying to figure out why I'm not feeling fulfilled when I've checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I think that that's so important. And I hope that everybody just heard that, right? Like, and so much so that I just wrote it down because it's just such a good reminder, right? Is we're thinking about language, we're using language that when you have the solution, you're kind of already in that place versus your ideal buyer hasn't gotten there yet. So would you mind elaborating a little bit more on how helping your clients to see your solution is beneficial? Because like it's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg, but it's really about helping them to see your solution before it is that you are offering the actual tool and the service itself that attracts them to you. So expand on that a little bit, and how can those people listening start integrating that into their approach and their strategies?
Yeah, well, if you think about the 3 a.m. question as the quiz hook, because in my world we use quizzes as that conversation piece, right? So if the quiz is the quiz question, for example, what's stopping you from going from 6 to 7 figures? Like, what's the hurdle? What's your number one hurdle to, 7 figures? Somebody that's struggling with that question is going to stop and go, I want to know that. I actually am struggling with this, and I would like to know what my number one hurdle is. The quiz questions themselves are your stepping stones between, okay, they're thinking about, the hurdle that they're going through to get to 7 figures. What do we need to know to help them kind of think through this process, right? We need to know what kind of business they're in. We need to know maybe how long they've been in business. What kind of team structure do they have? Have they, what kind of marketing do they do? Have they hired on, or, what kind of IT processes do they have in place? What's missing? Do they have leadership training, or do they, what do they think their number one challenge is? Is it maybe they think it's mindset, or it's IT, or it's leadership? As you ask these questions, and kind of from a more general frame point down to really specifically, what do you think the problem is for not getting to 7 figures? They're starting to think, oh yeah, okay, well, here's where I am in business. Here's what I've done. Yep, here's what I've tried. Here's why it didn't work. Oh, this is what I'm struggling with. And now you're saying, great, you know what, Wendy, I've heard you. I completely understand. There's a lot going on with this question, but the number one challenge that you have right now in this moment, so I'm meeting you where you're at, is, mindset, right? So in order to get to 7 figures, what got you to 6 isn't going to get you to 7. Let's talk about the mindset. For Barbara, who's coming through the quiz, maybe she gets, it's all about IT. You've got to have the systems in place, right? Because that's where she's really struggling. And then Brian comes through and he finds out that he needs team. They all need all of it, right? But you've actually managed to talk to them and meet them where they're at within the problem that they're trying to solve. It's a perceived customization and personalization, and then you get to invite them. Like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the other things that are going on. Let's talk about how we can help you solve this problem. But what you're able to do is say, I understand the problem. Now we've gone through a conversation about what's going on in the business and kind of pinpointed some of the challenges. I've given you some solutions. It's not all the solutions, but some solutions to get, if you walk away right now, you've gotten a good start. But if you want to learn more, now the second invitation comes in, right? So you've had this kind of whole conversation with people within 60 seconds. And that is able to really kind of build that know, like, and trust of them, like them trusting you as a business, but also you get to learn about them. And you get to know if they're for you. And because if they're not interested in the service, they're going to drop off the quiz. Great. Awesome. Attract the best and release the rest, because there's somebody else's best. right? Only bring in the people into your community that are at least willing to have a conversation with you, even if it's in a quiz format.
Right. Well, and I think that we forget so many times that it's about them. It's not about us.
Yes.
Right.
And what are they going to learn? Yeah.
Exactly. And it's really about just taking a beat, right? Power in the pause. That's the name of the podcast, right? It's really about just taking a second instead of feeling like you have to rush through to make an offer, that it's really about understanding your consumers so that it's almost like it helps you weed out those that you do want to make an offer to versus those who you're like, you know what, I'm not the right person. So in the clients that you have worked with, I'd love for you to just share, like, what are some of the results that they have seen, and maybe even touch on, because maybe there's some people thinking, oh, I'm not far along enough in my business for me to do a quiz. If you want to demystify that myth, by all means, address that as well.
Yeah, well, so the challenge with a lot of what we call lead magnets, so those things that you give away to really build your email list, people are wise to them. Like people know that you're just collecting the email so that you're going to email them later, and they're going to be on your list, and that's fine. They're trading information for their information, but 80% of those PDF downloads, those checklists, those ebooks, those templates, and like they're never opened again, right? So they're getting downloaded, and you think as a business owner, yes, I've gotten somebody that's really interested. I'm going to start sending them these emails all about the business and all about, how I can help them. And they haven't read the download. So they don't know you from Adam. Not really, right? Like it goes into that file folder that everyone has of to read later, and 2 years later, you go out and you just like delete everything because you never got to it. Right. So what a quiz is able to do is, first of all, it mimics, again, that conversation because it's question after question. It's in real time. They get the answer in real time. And the solution, if you do a video right after, they've completed the quiz, do a small little video that says, hey, you know what? Thanks for taking the quiz. Here's your results. There's a report on the way. But just so you know, because I know you're anxious to get your information, here are the 3 things that I think that we can be working on in order to solve your biggest challenges. Right? They get that in the real time. Now they've seen you, they've heard you, you've heard them, and you've given them an option to continue. So you've done, a lot of like kind of 6, 7 steps all within one process.
Yeah. It's so much around, like, it does the weeding out and the weeding in, right? It is such a powerful funnel. I've used them before. They are wildly I have had wild success with quizzes, and they are such a powerful tool for us to be able to really get to know our audience. And what I'm also hearing you say is that quizzes also give you that instant gratification, right? It gives you, versus like, oh God, I have to like read an 8-page bloody blah, blah. Like, I don't have the time for that, right? But like, how many of us, even when we're on Facebook and we see someone did a quiz and we're like, ooh, I want to know what my answers are, right? Like, again, it's, you have curiosity about the quiz, and the quiz is getting information from you because the person who created it is curious about you. Like, it is just this perfect, well-oiled machine that I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand how powerful it can be. So as we are kind of bringing everything full circle, what do you want to leave our audience with today? Like, what is the biggest takeaway you want them to hear from our conversation today about kind of switching from focusing on lead generation to client attraction?
Yeah, I think that once you get the right people into your community, then you get, when I did my first quiz, I tripled my leads and I doubled my sales, right? You just get better, more qualified people to talk to. Makes it a lot easier to make offers and go forward with. So, I would just say, just be curious, but don't just throw a whole bunch of questions together and call it a quiz. It really needs to be a story. It needs to be about them about your ideal client and they need to learn something about themselves. And if you're worried about giving away the kitchen sink in terms of information, give it away. Because if it was all about information, we'd all be billionaires because of YouTube, right? It's all probably searchable on YouTube. So give it all away. Like, give away that, the keys to the house, because they're going to still want to come and be a guest.
Yeah. So I love that. It's so true. And there's also going to be people out there who want the support, who want the accountability, right? And so I agree with you. I mean, I'm all about a giving mentality. It's who I am. It's who I've always been. And I think that that's such a beautiful way to bring this to a close. And Catharine, I know that you guys, Catharine is an expert. I mean, with all of her background in consumer research and market insights, I mean, she is a brilliant human being. And if you guys are even thinking about wanting to jump into the quiz game, she is somebody you guys should follow, connect with, reach out to. So Catharine, how and where can people find you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to quizformybiz.com. So that's quiz, F-O-R, for mybiz.com, and take the quiz. Surprise, right? But take the quiz and you will learn what a quiz can do for your business in the sense of bridging some of those communication gaps that you might be having with your ideal clients. And then you'll be invited to a next step. And that's how people connect with me most efficiently. But everyone, honestly, for my business, everyone goes through the quiz first because I want to know. I want to know a little bit more about you. And I want to be able to have that information when we're on a call to say, oh, I see what you're struggling with. It's, this, and this. Let's cut straight to the chase and let's make this most, time most efficient.
Yeah, so awesome. You guys, that link is in the show notes, along with where you can also find Catharine. If you are a social media person, you can find all of her information there. Catharine, thank you so much for being my guest. I am so grateful that you are in my circle of friends and people that I know. And I absolutely love the work that you do. So thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. And thank you for being a great friend.
Yeah, of course. You guys, I hope that you loved today's episode. I really do. I hope that you learned something new about what it is that you guys are maybe doing in your business that you get to do differently. With every single episode of the Power in the Pause podcast, what my goal is to enlighten you, to have a moment to grab a nugget of information that is going to help you to recognize the power in the pause as you are building or pivoting your business. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As a reminder, please hit that subscribe button so that you guys do not miss a single episode, and follow me across social media at Wendy Page Sterling. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day or evening or morning, depending upon when you are listening to this podcast. Sending you all so much love and light always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.